Natalie slammed her hands on the bathroom counter at home. She stared herself in the mirror, her eye twitching. I won't hurt myself like the others. I can stay strong. What others?
Excuse me. I'm just gonna point out, just because your eye twitches does not mean there's something wrong with you. Usually, when the bottom of your eye twitches about right here, that's usually a sign of lack of sleep. So, no, there's nothing wrong with her. That just means she's sleepy.
There was a needle and a black thread in her hand.
Why?
It's pointless. No, this is normal. That's just what everybody has in their backpack.
In their fucking bathroom.
It's pointless. It doesn't help. Some weird sensation pulled at her subconscious. She chuckled slightly. No, I'm doing this because I want to. She held up the needle with the thread at the end of it, smirked. Time is up. Piece after piece, cut after cut, even through excruciating pain was going through her. She did not whine. She did not whimper. She did not cry. There were no more tears to shed. All she did was smile. Blood leaked from the pierces and made a low dripping noise into the sink and onto the counter. She stood back and admired her handiwork. She stroked the horrendous stitches on the sides of her mouth, which spread into her wide smile. She felt the warm, wet blood on her fingers and licked it gently, consuming the metallic tasting liquid in pure ecstasy. Oh, yes! She stopped when she saw her mother's reflection in the mirror behind her and sharply turned around. She saw her mother's wide eyes and pale face, and she looked at her fingers, seeing the blood. She suddenly felt the pain and began to cry. Mom, Natalie cried. She had never felt so confused. What had just happened to her? Her mother had scheduled some therapy for her. Oh, thank God. What?
It only took a few fucking years.
Natalie had not gotten rid of the stitches in fear of how much pain it would bring.
It wouldn't, but okay.
She went to the session with them. She made sure her hood was up. They just left her like that. As to not let anyone see, she sat down on the comfortable leather seat and stared at the blonde woman from her in silence. So your name's Natalie, isn't it? Natalie nodded. I'm Deborah.
I'm Deborah.
I don't know why, but it just makes it worse that her name is Deborah. And I'm here to help. Now tell me, Natalie, what have been some of your problems recently? Natalie stared. Time. Time has been my problem. It happened for one fucking day, where this weird obsession with time came in. Deborah gave her a confused look. What about time, dear? Natalie's hands roughly gripped the leather of the seat. Everything. It makes you live through it, slowly progressing through life, being controlled by society.
Time is not doing that to you.
Only to be tortured to seemingly no end until you find you no longer have a purpose. It's a vicious circle. Time does not end.
No, it doesn't.
It does not slow down.
No.
It does not speed up.
No.
It is violent.
No. I guess.
It makes you live through the torture over and over again.
No, your mind does that. Time is just a thing that continues to go. It's not doing anything. Your mind is doing this. I'm sorry.
Unable to fast forward through any of it.
You already stated this, sweetheart.
I'm deep and I took one course of psychology. Natalie really had no idea what she had just said. Neither do we.
Good job, fucking Natalie.
Were you gonna say the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
She felt like she wasn't herself anymore. Could this be because of all the things she had kept contained? Probably. No, that was impossible.
Oh.
But for some strange reason, she liked it. The therapist leaned in closer. Sweetheart, I want you to tell me what's happened to you. Has the therapist ever asked you that? And were they a good therapist?
Yes. Therapists usually say, what's happened to you, or can you tell me a bit about yourself? Yes, that's logical.
Uh-huh.
However,
yeah,
I don't think they're going to follow the logic on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually they don't just say, so tell me your life story. They go, what can you tell me about yourself? They just kind of like inch in instead of going, okay, let's go in the deep end. You don't have floaties. Go.
Natalie continued staring. There was a long pause. She smirked slightly, the wounds from her stitches opening slightly once again. Why don't you tell me, Blondie? You're the expert. Deborah just got fucking dissed. Deborah appeared mildly annoyed. Natalie, I can't help unless you tell me what's wrong. Natalie's fingers started to tear into the leather seating. Natalie isn't here anymore. With that, Deborah's eyes widened and she rose to her feet. I'll be right back. Please stay here. She walked out, leaving Natalie alone. Maybe if she had done something at this point, she wouldn't have come to be what she is today. Maybe more people would be alive. And maybe she would be sane like she had been before. Yeah? What do you got to say?
If a patient shows signs of violence towards themselves or others, it is very unlikely that the doctor would leave them alone in the room without any sort of monitoring. I don't know if there's cameras in this room, but I'm guessing no. Having been in this situation where a doctor was like, you know what, you're a danger to yourself, we're going to watch you, this wouldn't fucking happen. She wouldn't just be like, you know what, sit here, have some of the water or tea or whatever you like. I have some apple juice in my little fridge. Go ahead! No, that wouldn't happen. She wouldn't just be like, you know what, stay here with your thoughts. I'll be right back. I'm going to talk to Dr. Doolittle in the other room. No, that wouldn't happen.
As much as I would love to say that Natalie... Who is narrating? Would love to say that Natalie got up from the... Is this like a Lemony Snicket type of scenario where the narrator's like a close entourage that communicates with the main character? Natalie got up from the chair and stopped what came next from happening. The grammar was okay until that point. What the fuck happened? As much as I would love to say that Natalie got up from that chair and stopped what came next from happening, I'm obligated. This is like Lemony Snicket. I'm obligated to give you the horrid truth. Natalie did not move. She sat perfectly still, in total silence, and absolutely calm in that chair. And after a while of waiting impatiently, her parents walked in. Natalie stood, happy to go, but she noticed her parents' expressions. Even her father had a strange, saddened expression on his face. Her confusion grew, but she said nothing and followed them to the car. On the way, while she thought she was going back home, she started to drift off. Strangely, she heard a dark voice speak in her dream. Don't let it be who I think it is. It almost sounded like her own. Okay, so it's not who I think it is.
You thought it was the Slender Man?
Yes, I thought it was the fucking Slender Man. Echoing into the eternal abyss. Your time is up. She shot awake. After some beads of sweat rolling down her face, she wasn't home. She wasn't in the car. She was in a bed. A white bed. They took her to a mental institution.
Oh, good. So there is some logic behind this. I'm so glad.
In a white room.
Is it padded?
Probably. She looked to her side and realized she was hooked up to a heart monitor. She attempted to get up, but that's when she realized that she was restrained. She panicked. She began to struggle, but paused when she heard the door open to her left. A man in a white shirt looked at her, his hands behind his back. He resembled one of those cliché doctors you would see in a television program set in a scientific lab. That means he's hot. She paid full attention as Mr. Scientist started to speak. I can only imagine how very confused you must be right now. Yeah, he said, but I'm letting you know we're only here to help. Your parents agreed to allow us to administer medication to you in hopes of helping your state of mind. Natalie opened her mouth to protest, but was quickly silenced. You don't need to worry, the doctor said. The doctor sought to reassure her. You'll be back to normal in no time. Just try to relax. He walked over, and as he did, she tried to skittishly move away, but was unable to due to the leather straps binding her wrist and legs.
They don't have those.
He carefully took a mask and put it over her mouth and nose. Now they're giving her the medication to knock her out.
Oh, so it's sleep gas, anesthesia. They wouldn't, or anesthesia, whatever it's called.
Anesthetic?
They wouldn't give that to her. It would be inserted via IV.
And put it over her mouth and nose. She stubbornly tried to get it off, but of course, being restrained, she couldn't fucking do that. But felt herself starting to slip under as the drugs kicked in and slowly shut her eyes. What are they fucking planning on doing, though? Suddenly, Natalie woke up. She couldn't comprehend what she was seeing. She was being given multiple injections. That's a bad thing, I would assume. Yeah? Yeah, I'm getting validation that yes, that is bad. And something was being rubbed on her skin. She felt woozy, but was otherwise completely aware of her surroundings.
Yeah.
She was entering a rare state patients sometimes find themselves in while undergoing surgery.
Why is she having surgery? To remove the stitches? That wouldn't require surgery.
Oh yeah, does she still have the stitches? In which they are able to see as they are being worked on. In this state, they can feel the pain and their brain is active, but they're unable to respond. Natalie...
that wouldn't actually happen, but okay, let's continue like it would.
Oh, you're telling me that this isn't something patients go through?
In very, very, very rare instances, but considering the amount of drugs they pumped her with, no.
Natalie, however, was able to. Her heart rate began to accelerate, as reflected on the nearby monitor, and the doctors took notice of this. They looked at her and noticed of her opened eyes. One of the doctors yelled at another, "Why are you yelling? You stay in a calm environment." Natalie couldn't make out what they were saying, but she suddenly felt a rush of adrenaline. Shaking violently, she slowly started to slip out of her bonds. Did she dislocate her thumb to do that? One of the doctors moved to hold her down, but then hesitated to do so. Natalie watched as all three of the doctors backed away in unison. She sat on the edge of the bed, and the IV tubes from her arm, and the mask from her face. She got to her feet and started to stumble towards them. Her breath hitched, and her vision was blurry. She was vaguely aware. Why was she getting surgery? Aware, but then she was chuckling like a madman. But suddenly, she felt a searing pain in her chest. She gripped her chest in agony and dropped to her knees. She coughed up blood, fell prostrate. Oh, the floor. That's what that says.
And blacked out.
Natalie woke up slowly and groggily sometime later. Did she have the surgery? What was the surgery? We'll never know. She found herself back in bed, and the doctor sitting beside it. I'm so sorry, Natalie. Something went horribly wrong. Natalie didn't know why, but she felt a tremendous amount of hatred towards the doctor. He took notice of her disgust and looked away instinctively. You weren't supposed to wake up while we were giving you the dose of your mental state. What? You weren't supposed to wake up while we were giving you the doses for your mental state. Were you injecting that shit directly into her head?
Injections don't require surgery. They don't require IVs. They don't require oxygen because you're going under for surgery. They don't require any of that if you're just getting injections. Unless somewhere they learned that she has severe case of phobia towards needles and injections. But I doubt that.
The doctor continued. We aren't sure how it affected you.
I'm guessing poorly.
But we have a feeling we're going to find out.
Okay.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
He paused for a moment before taking out a small mirror. The entire time... Oh yeah, remember that Natalie's eyes were hazel? The entire time he looked away from her. Regrettably, the medication impacted your appearance as well. Natalie looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes widened. Her eyes were completely green. You can't see it, but Koo just blinked rapidly. She noticed she still had the stitches in her mouth as well. Why they didn't take that out, I don't know.
And they're like, oh, that's just a birthmark.
But for some reason, she couldn't help but feel overjoyed.
I always wanted green eyes.
I fucking love that. I love the fact that anyone, going through horrible treatment of the face, they see themselves in the mirror and they're shocked. And then this doctor is just like, it affected your appearance. All serious, like, gives her a mirror. She has fucking green eyes. Holy shit. She has green eyes, you guys. She's a monster. Her heart rate began to rise again. She gave a low chuckle. The doctor looked on in shock as Natalie quickly moved towards him until she close enough for him to feel her breath. Doctor! She began, still chuckling. He trembled slightly and pressed a button on the other side of the monitor. Yes? He stammered in reply. Your time is up. A loud scream was heard through the halls of the facility. Two security guards rushed into the room, kicking open the door. Blood. Blood was the first thing they saw. Blood on the walls, on the bed, on the floor, even on the ceiling. That's a lot of blood. Natalie had strapped the doctor to her bed. Yes, the 16-year-old girl with fucking green eyes took out this presumably adult doctor and strapped him to the bed.
Okay.
As
much as teenagers in the Creepypasta fandom might think.
I know adrenaline.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
Okay.
There's not that much blood in the human body for it to cover the floor, the walls, the bed.
Ceiling.
And
over there, and up there.
And if she's strapped him to the bed, he didn't fucking explode for all this blood to be fucking everywhere.
Of course he did.
I'm sorry. That's not how human body works.
The bed was bent at a sharp angle, and the doctor's spine was completely snapped. Blood poured from his eyes, nose, and mouth.
Is that the blood that got on the walls, floors, bed, and ceiling?